Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, friends, it gives me particular pleasure to welcome President Medvedev among us. A particular pleasure because I still remember your closing speech in Davos 16 months ago when you impressed everybody with your outlook for the future of Russia. You impressed everybody, I should say, with your English. And it's
freedom is better than non-freedom.
And I have to say, our relationship with Russia dates back for so many years. Actually, in '91, we were first time here in St. Petersburg, and at that time, our host was the mayor at the time of St. Petersburg, and I think you and also Prime Minister Putin were present when we were first time here with a delegation. So what we are doing here is to celebrate our long-lasting partnership and friendship, and thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening. I would like to introduce, you are accompanied by Arkady Dvorkovich, who is an advisor to you and who is the G8 Sherpa, so playing a very important role in the preparation of the G8 summit. And before we start, I would like to pay a special tribute to you, Minister, and to thank you for the excellent cooperation we two brothers, the St. Petersburg International Economic Summit and our forum and the World Economic Forum had in working together here. And congratulations, I have had first reactions, which were very positive. Mr. President, I should say you have in front of you, we did a rough calculation, and I think you are here confronted with something which is far above 1 trillion industrial or economic power. Represented on the CEO level, it's probably closer to 2 trillion. So we are, of course, very eager to hear from you. What is the outlook? How do you assess the situation of Russia? And I'm sure it will be a great discussion. So please welcome again the President of the Russian Federation.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, our meeting tonight as part of the forum is not just a tribute to an existing tradition. Life itself and the recent developments have demonstrated that only this direct dialogue makes it possible to discuss a whole number of very serious issues that are equally important for business and government in this country. Overall, it has a positive impact on the business environment in Russia and its investment component. To start with, I would like to make 5 points which I believe are especially important today. And then I'm sure you will be able to draw my attention to a number of issues that I may have overlooked and that you believe are important for further development of cooperation with Russian companies and Russia as a whole. As you know, and I've mentioned this already earlier today, we have challenged ourselves to ensure Russia's transition to an innovative model of development. By the year 2020, in terms of the size of our economy, we intend to join the ranks of the 5 leading countries of the world. And one of the crucial factors in addressing these tasks is to attract new long-term investment. Last year, the growth of investment into fixed assets grew by 21%. We have reinforced this positive trend, thus creating a foundation to diversify our economy. And we can also ensure a transition of our economy to a new technological reality. Secondly, it is in our best interest to see capitals flowing into a whole variety of sectors of the Russian economy. Before, most investment in Russia went into natural resources and transport. However, today, this list is continued by agriculture, engineering, real estate, wood processing, and retail. We believe that these items are equally important for Russia as natural resources and transport sectors. At the same time, the share of foreign direct investment in our GDP is about 5% at this point. Most of this investment goes into retail, construction, and certainly natural resources. To change this situation, a number of measures have been undertaken. First and foremost, these are steps to build a full-fledged regulatory framework which would determine the further development of investment. And I'm coming to my third point. For quite a while we have discussed in this country the preparation of a special law on strategic targets for investment. And just recently, on April 29th, this federal law on the procedure for foreign investment into companies that have strategic importance for the nation was adopted. This law is very concrete, which is something that foreign investors expected from us. It applies to 42 types of activity, and it significantly streamlines the procedure of investing into these industries. If an investor is interested in acquiring a blocking stake or a controlling stake in a company which is listed among strategic enterprises, he has to go through a special clearance procedure in the government. This procedure and this law are very similar to their functional equivalents in the United States. But I have actually compared these two instruments, and ours is much simpler. And if a particular industry is not on the list, then the question does not arise, and you can invest freely. You do not need any special permissions. In addition, and this is my fourth point, dear colleagues, we're now preparing a number of proposals on improving taxation arrangements for foreign investors and for investors as a whole. This is about incentivizing investment into intellect, into human capital. We are discussing the possibility of making exempt from taxation expenses on corporate education and health insurance. It is especially important. We would also like to introduce a special arrangement which would enable businesses to co-finance the payment of mortgage interest by their employees, who would be made exempt from taxes for a particular period of time. We know the difficulties faced on the mortgage market in a number of very large countries, but we're not going to give up on this instrument. We would like to take into account the negative experiences of advanced economies in the recent time. And my fifth point, last but not least, the investment environment in this nation, and as a lawyer I understand this very well, is determined not only by the situation on the legislative front, it is also determined by the quality of enforcement and primarily by the efficiency of the judiciary. This is a very important aspect for this country. In the past 15 years, we have created a rather modern judiciary, which is radically different from the Soviet one. At the same time, we cannot claim at this point that we're happy with all the judicial institutions, and our goal is to create an absolutely independent judiciary, which would be in line with the requirements of contemporary times, and that would be in line with the demands of developing our economy. One of the first decrees in my office as president was devoted to improving our judiciary. We also pay great attention to lifting administrative barriers and fighting corruption. This is a serious evil in this country. Unfortunately, you're aware of this. We're going to address this problem, and also we're going to focus on special opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises. I believe these 5 points are especially important today. They are key points for the development of our economy and for attracting investment. And I believe that, as I said at the beginning, we're going to discuss a number of other issues as well. Thank you very much.
We are starting our Q&A session, and Mr. Schwab and myself will give you the floor. Please, before asking a question, present yourself and ask the question as shortly as possible. So let's start. Who would like to ask the first question, please?
Я думаю, что
It will not be difficult. Companies, you do not need to introduce yourself at length. As soon as you pronounce the name of your company, everything will be clear. I'm sure there won't be any problems with brevity.
My name is Jeroen van der Veer from Shell. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Your 5 points very much appreciated, especially the one about the special sector law. And you covered already part of my question. And of course, for foreign investors, your special sector law, in fact, gave the clarity on which we discussed last year. So this is very good progress. So in itself, there is, at least from my side, very strong support for this law. What of course will help in order to prepare projects or even cooperations with Russian companies if we get an early understanding about the predictability of the law, because there's the danger that you work on the wrong things, or if you have a doubt, that you have a kind of fast procedure for early rulings, those kind of things. I think that can then really help additional foreign investment. So do you have additional observations or ideas for us how it may start to work in practice, and then especially on the aspects of predictability and speed?
уважаемый господин Медведев,
Dear Mr. Moderator, I am fully aware that any legislative act, even such a long-awaited one as the law on strategic industries, will not address all the problems that exist today. As a lawyer, as a professional lawyer, I always warn my colleagues against any legal illusions. I remember the time in the early 1990s when it was claimed that once we've adopted the law, tomorrow everything will be beautiful and perfect. This did not happen. And you're right when you say that for any rule of law, for any civilized legal system, it is very important to ensure predictability. What is important is the question of evolution of legislation and any changes to it. I believe that today we have reached a very decent level of understanding of this issue. For Russia is a country which has a continental legal system. There might be certain pros and cons on this front. And one of the advantages is that once we've adopted a number of fundamental laws, we have laid the groundwork for the system for the future. And I believe that today the level of protection, legal protection for ownership rights, the level of protection of contractual obligations under our legislation are fully in line with international standards, and we see a similar level in Europe. We do not have the opportunity to use for legal remedy for investment a system of case law, because we have our own legal system. But of course, if foreign investment is governed by a foreign law, then such an opportunity will be there. And this certainly creates certain problems, because very often we refer to the judgments passed by courts in countries which have Anglo-Saxon legal system. I believe that today the level of predictability of our legal system is rather high. The main challenge today is, after all, to ensure the enforcement of all these regulations in our judiciary at all levels, from filing the claim all the way to its consideration, litigation, passing the judgment, and enforcement of the judgment. The government is going to focus on all of this. I have no doubts that we will deliver results, but it may be a little more difficult than just create an advanced legal system. I believe it is much more difficult than just to create a legal framework. And I hope that in a number of years our system will be not less efficient than legal systems in most advanced countries of the world.
Thank you. Next question or comment? I see one hand over here.
Yes, President Medvedev. Jean-Philippe Courtois from Microsoft. This morning and before, you've been elevating innovation as one of the four I's, one of the four driving forces of the social economic development of Russia. Could you please elaborate on the innovation strategy when it comes to information communication technology in Russia, and what would you expect from global companies to participate in this development? Thank you.
Спасибо.
Thank you. Today, with great attention, I listened to what you had to say earlier today. I believe that the role of global companies in achieving the goals, the ambitious goals, to revolutionize the IT sector, the communications sector, what we call innovative economy. All of these tasks are of a fundamental nature. No matter how much we criticize major global companies, but it is you that bear the major part of responsibility for promoting innovative societies. And every time we turn on our computers, and I normally don't even switch off my computer, it's always on, we look into the monitors, and sometimes with good words, sometimes with not very kind words, we remember the developers of the content that we see, but we also realize perfectly well that without this part, without this, there will be no new digital world, and there will not be what is now called, after a famous book, the flat world. The world has really become flat, and every day we get to understand this with greater clarity. I do not think that small and medium-sized companies are unable to make their own contribution. Of course, they are able. Talented experts from small companies sometimes become managers and professionals in large global companies, but the lion's share responsibility for the digital world of the 21st century, so that this world would be cohesive, this responsibility is borne by your large companies. We wish you success in promoting your products in the territory of the Russian Federation.